At the beginning of the story, we are introduced to a young boy named Piyuk on his first day in a detention facility. Having spent his entire childhood surrounded by criminals and drug dealers, Piyuk's mother sold drugs to support the family. This led to him being publicly shamed by his teachers in front of his classmates. His mother was eventually caught by the police and sentenced to 24 years in prison, leaving Piyuk an orphan. One day, while at a local grocery store, a man made derogatory remarks about his mother, even calling her a prostitute. Piyuk's anger boiled over, but his girlfriend Pa tried to calm him down. However, when the man suggested making Pa his mistress, Piyuk snapped and shot him on the spot. We then see Piyuk in an interrogation room, being brutally beaten by a police officer. Since he was a minor under 18, he was not sent to a regular prison, but rather to a youth detention center for rehabilitation. Despite its purpose, the center was just as brutal as a regular jail, with younger inmates instead of hardened criminals. The stronger boys oppressed the weaker ones, and humanity seemed absent. Piyuk arrived at the center with another boy named Fluke, who had been caught selling drugs. Upon their arrival, the warden questioned them, but when he saw no fear in Piyuk's eyes, he decided to make an example of him. The warden sternly warned Piyuk that he didn't care about his background and would make his life miserable if he showed any disrespect. He then took them to a changing room and instructed a prisoner named Beer to straighten them out. Beer proudly promised the warden that by the time they left the room, both boys would be begging for mercy. After the warden left, Beer forced Piyuk to strip, humiliating him completely. Their hair was shaved, and this was only the beginning of a nightmare they would live every day. The cells were overcrowded, with all the inmates crammed together like cattle. That night, Beer signaled his men, and everyone suddenly got up. One of them approached Fluke, telling him the boss had a job for him. When Piyuk refused to go with them, Fluke was forcibly taken and stood before Beer. Fluke pleaded for mercy, but no one came to his aid. Beer told him not to be afraid, and that he would get used to it. Beer offered Fluke two options: submit to a vile act and become his property, or refuse and become the object of abuse for every inmate there. Terrified, Fluke chose the former. Meanwhile, the other inmates started beating Piyuk relentlessly. He was so badly beaten that he struggled to get up the next morning. When he finally made it to the cafeteria, all eyes were on him. The jail was divided into blocks, each with its own leader. In Gus's block, one of his men pointed out Piyuk, suggesting they recruit him since he was from their city. At the food counter, the cook told Piyuk there was no food left. Piyuk was willing to eat the burnt scraps from the bottom of the pot, but as the cook put the leftovers on his plate, Piyuk grabbed his arm, sensing the cook was trying to spill the food. Piyuk asked why they were treating him this way. The cook replied that meddling in other people's business comes with a price. Just then, Beer walked over and knocked Piyuk's food to the ground. Gus's men expected a fight, but Piyuk quietly picked up the food and began to eat it. Everyone thought he was crazy, but Gus remarked that Piyuk was smart. He reasoned that if he were in Piyuk's place, he would have done the same because eating was a matter of survival. Later, all the inmates were taken to the showers. Piyuk was bathing quietly when Beer and his men surrounded him. Beer sneered, "Did you think you could use everything here for free? There's a price to pay for everything." They forced Piyuk to his knees, and according to their rules, he was to endure 5 kicks. Beer delivered the first kick. They then called Fluke and ordered him to kick Piyuk. Fluke refused, but when they threatened to punish him the same way, he reluctantly kicked Piyuk, though gently. With only 2 kicks left, Beer grew furious with Fluke's light blow and told one of his men to deliver the next one. Piyuk, realizing the blow would be severe, tried to defend himself. Enraged, Beer and his group brutally beat Piyuk again. Piyuk fainted and was left lying there. Then a flashback shows young Piyuk boxing for money. When he came home bruised and beaten, his mother asked why he did it. Piyuk explained that he was tired of being mocked because she sold drugs and didn't want to live off that money. The scene then returns to the prison. The warden found Piyuk and gave him 5 minutes to get out, threatening worse punishment if he had to return. Fluke was waiting for him and apologized, offering him an orange. It was the first time they spoke and learned each other's names. Meanwhile, the warden warned Beer that he was causing problems. Beer was enraged when he learned Fluke had given Piyuk an orange. The warden told Beer he had until his cigarette was finished to do what he wanted, after which he would sound the alarm. As soon as the warden left, Beer started beating Fluke. The other inmates watched silently, but no one intervened. Seeing his friend being beaten, Piyuk jumped in and challenged Beer. "If you're a real man, fight me." Piyuk kicked one of Beer's men so hard that he was knocked unconscious. Before the situation could escalate further, Golf intervened and stopped the fight. He offered to include both boys in his block, but Beer protested, claiming they were his prey. A short while later, Gus arrived and confronted Beer. After a tense standoff, Beer agreed to give up one of the boys, and Gus chose Piyuk. Piyuk was now part of Gus's gang, and harming him meant clashing with the entire group. That night, Gus saw Piyuk was awake. Piyuk asked why he had saved him, but left his friend to the mercy of those monsters. Gus explained that Fluke was not like him. He was not defiant, and would survive by submitting to them, but you would not have lasted a week. Golf gave him a handmade wooden knife and told him to use it if he ever needed to. That night, Piyuk slept peacefully, while Fluke endured a brutal night of beatings from Beer and his friends, leaving him in a terrible state. The next morning, as the prisoners were being moved outside, Golf noticed Piyuk was still sleeping. He tried to wake him, but Piyuk didn't move. For a moment, they feared he was dead, but Piyuk suddenly woke up and held the knife to Golf's throat. When he fully came to his senses, he remembered he was safe from the monsters. After this incident, Piyuk's life slowly began to improve. He found comfort and friendship in Gus's group. Gus often shared his food with him, and with proper nutrition, Piyuk's health quickly recovered. Meanwhile, Fluke was not so lucky. Beer and his friends tortured him daily, both physically and mentally. It seemed he was on the verge of giving up. A few days later, Pa came to visit Piyuk. Seeing her brought a small smile to his face, but his happiness was short-lived. Pa told him that his mother had passed away in prison. Piyuk's eyes filled with tears, and he broke down, crying uncontrollably. Pa told him she had only come to inform him of the funeral and would no longer visit. Piyuk pleaded with her not to leave, as she was the only one he had left in the world. Despite his pleas, she walked away without looking back. Around the same time, Gus was talking to his father, who told him he had arranged for a school and a job, promising him a new life outside. Gus had been in the center for over 10 years and was ready for a new beginning, but his anger flared when he found out his father was still with his stepmother. He said nothing and simply walked away. As Piyuk tried to overcome his grief, he saw Beer attempting to attack Golf. He jumped in to protect him, but the warden arrived and ordered everyone to lie down. Beer's actions were escalating the tension between the two blocks. Gus warned Beer that he would have to deal with him if he didn't stop, which was exactly what Beer wanted. He wanted to fight and settle once and for all who was the most powerful. That night, as everyone slept, Beer and his friends went to Fluke. Staring at him, Beer said he no longer needed him and told his men to do as they pleased. Fluke had reached his breaking point. He tried to fight back, but it only enraged them, and they took turns raping him. In those four walls of the jail, humanity was dead. Fluke screamed for help, calling out for the warden, but no one came. He was left lying on the stairs, a half-dead shell of a person. It was then that he overheard Beer and his friends talking. They were grinding a blade into a powder to mix into Piyuk's food the next day. The next day, they carried out their plan with the help of the cook. Gus's group always shared their food, so it wasn't guaranteed that Piyuk would eat the poisoned meal. Beer didn't care who died, as long as someone did. When the plate with the poison came to Piyuk, Fluke snatched it before he could eat and consumed all the food himself. The blade ripped through his throat and stomach, causing him to writhe in agony. Piyuk tried to help him, but Gus stopped him, explaining it would only cause more pain. They couldn't save him. Fluke's death escalated the tension between the two groups, and Gus finally agreed to a gang war, scheduled for the next day when the guards would be busy. Piyuk was consumed by guilt over his friend's death. He isolated himself, but Gus comforted him, saying, "What's done is done, you can't change it. Tomorrow, it could be me or anyone else here. How many deaths will you regret?" After this, everyone gathered on the ground. They waited for Beer for a long time, but he didn't show up. They assumed he was scared, but they were wrong. Golf spotted them approaching. Everyone drew their weapons and charged at each other. Gus attacked Beer, but his blade bounced off something Beer was wearing underneath his clothes. Beer then stabbed Gus repeatedly. Their screams alerted the guards, who sounded the alarm, stopping the fight. The warden beat everyone with a stick, but no one would say who started the fight. In the end, everyone was sent back to their cells. Piyuk noticed Gus sleeping with a blanket on despite the heat. When he touched his forehead, he felt a high fever. He saw Gus's wound and started shouting for help. A sharp object was stuck in his stomach. Golf tried to remove it, but the pain was unbearable for Gus. Piyuk kept crying for help, but everyone ignored him. Gus knew his time was short. He looked at Piyuk and said, "These people are like us. They have no home, no family. After me, they are in your care. Take care of them." That night, Gus took his last breaths, and silence fell over the place. When Gus's father learned of his son's death, he was completely broken. He had waited 10 years for his son's release, only for him to be killed just days before he was due to leave. To avenge Gus's death, they both went to kill Beer, but were caught just in time. Beer could have killed Piyuk then and there, but he gave him an option. "If you want to kill me, you will have to fight. Tell me, will you fight?" Beer was confident Piyuk wouldn't have the courage, but Piyuk looked him in the eye and accepted the challenge. Golf set the fight for the next day, stating, "If he loses, you can kill me too." That evening, Piyuk prepared for the fight. As he sharpened his blade, he told Golf that he had heard people remember their mothers when they are about to die. He felt he was going to die tomorrow because he was missing his mother so much. Golf advised him not to overthink it, as everyone has to die someday. The next day, everyone gathered in the bathroom to watch the fight. Golf told Beer to take off his clothes because he knew he was cheating. Beer asked who told him, sarcastically suggesting Gus's ghost had visited him. With the blade in his hand, Beer attacked Piyuk, confident he would kill him. Piyuk's fear was taking over. The first stab wound intensified his fear, and his every move was marked by nervousness. He tried to counterattack, but he was not as skilled as Beer in this bloody game. Finally, he pulled back his blade and remembered his boxing days, when his mind worked faster than his hands. As soon as he saw an opening, he swiftly stabbed Beer's leg. Beer stumbled and fell to the ground. Piyuk then relentlessly stabbed him in the stomach. Beer's friend tried to help, but Golf pushed him back. Finally, Piyuk choked Beer, taking his last breath. A few moments later, the guards arrived and ordered everyone back to their cells. The warden beat all three of them with a stick, saying, "You dirty sewer rats, when you don't care about your own lives, how can you expect us to care?" After beating them, he locked them in the cell. Golf told Piyuk not to think too much, as they had done nothing wrong and his death would make life easier for everyone. The next morning, Golf woke up to find Piyuk had been awake all night, staring out the window. A while later, the warden came with a pleasant surprise: delicious food for both of them. He told them, "If you want to eat this kind of food, you have to leave here. Your lives won't get better as long as you're here." The warden took them outside and told them they were being transferred to different jails, where life would be 1,000 times better. Golf and Piyuk thanked him for his kindness. As they were being put into separate vehicles, they gave each other one last look and said their silent goodbyes. Piyuk had learned a lot about life at this place, but now he had to face the rest of his sentence alone. The warden had given them hope that their lives would improve in the new jail, but only time would tell if his words were true. And with this, the movie comes to an end. Tell us in the comments how you liked it. And for amazing recaps like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel.